What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to completely address working with polishing and porting your cylinder head. So I'm going to be talking about the intake runners, the combustion chamber of the cylinder head, along with the exhaust runners. Depending on the design of the fuel system that you have for your car, you're going to be doing different kind of techniques, and you're going to have a different approach as to what you're going to do for porting and polishing. Now, if you're running with the same kind of setup as me, where you're running a direct injection turbocharged motor, you're going to be doing something a little bit different than if you were working with a naturally aspirated port fuel injection system. Now, I addressed those two differences in a different video, and if you guys want to see that information, check the link in the description box because I addressed both systems. There's differences between the two of them, and if you know what you're working with, you're going to know what to do to get more power out of this. But in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to be doing for this cylinder head. I'm first going to show you the quality that you're going to see from a standard cylinder head that's brand new from the manufacturer. You're not going to see anything amazing. The results and the quality is just going to be sufficient. It's not going to be unbelievably good, but it's not going to be horrible. Now, with that being said, you can refine it and make it even better by porting and polishing. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm referring to. So the cylinder head that I have right here is the old cylinder head that I removed from my Mini Cooper engine. I went ahead and sandblasted and soda blasted both the inside and the outside of the head. Now, all the oil stains and all the imperfections and dirt was removed, stripped, and then I put a single coat of paint over top of the entire thing. Now, I didn't put paint on the internals of the cylinder head. However, everything on the outside is coated in a nice layer of aluminum paint. I'm going to be fully addressing how to do this in a later video, but for this video, we're going to be addressing each one of the ports for the cylinders. So you can see that we have the intake runners around here, and you can see that they're not exactly of the greatest quality. Now I'm going to get a close-up of each one of these to show you what you should be looking for and what you should be removing when you're porting and polishing your runners. So this here is the intake port that's leading to cylinder number 3. Now if we take a closer look at the inside, you're going to see these irregularities in the casting. So these high spots are what we want to remove, and you can see that it even makes a noise when you rub your finger on it. So those irregularities in the casting are what is slowing down the air that's leading to the cylinder. So if we can remove all of those and smoothen that out, we're in theory going to get more power because we're not going to have that stuff there that's going to be slowing down the air. Any area that's like this is going to be causing any of the air found in the inside to be traveling a lot slower. So if we can smoothen this out and make it a more gradual and linear motion all the way to each one of the valves found down at the end of the port, we're going to be doing ourselves good. So you can see the smoothness right here, right at the front, and you can see that it becomes really rough right after it. Now we're going to be making all of this super smooth without making the total size of the port any bigger. We're just going to be smoothing out the imperfections and the high spots found in each one of the ports. Once we're done with the intake side, we can move to the exhaust ports and we can do the exact same thing. We can see that this part here that's machined is nice and smooth. However, the runners are cast and they're quite gross. So we're going to be using a carbide bit and we're going to be grinding all of the imperfections out and we're going to make this nice and smooth. Before we get working on the cylinder head though, we first need to make sure that the entire face of the cylinder head is going to be protected so that should we start to grind off some parts of the internals of each one of the runners, if the carbide bit jumps and we nick the face of it, if we have the tape on here, it's going to be fully protected. So that's why I'm putting some 3M automotive tape on the entire thing. After that's done, I'm going to grab an Olfa knife so that I can cut around the outside perimeter of each one of these holes so that I can not only work on the inside, but it will also protect the face. So depending on the job that you're going to be doing and the complexity and how detailed you are, you're going to be buying different tools. So I've got an assortment of carbide bits found right here. Now I've got some really small ones inside this kit, and I have some really long ones in this one. Now, if you're going to be working with something small, you're probably not going to need these long ones. But if you want to get down into the really far parts of each one of the runners, you are 100% going to need these long ones. Now the reason why is because you can attach one of these little drill bits, one of these milling bits should I say, the carbide bits, you can attach it into your drill, and because this has such a long reach, you don't have to work with only this little bit. Because the entire cylinder head is going to need some work done, you can get everything here done along with all of this extra reach. So if I were to grab the same kind of bit, but out of the shorter version, look at how much I can get with this versus this one. So if I'm really trying to get into each one of the ports, if I'm blocked off from the top of the cylinder head, I can't really get all the way down in there if I was using this bit. because look at the difference of the reach. So that's how much more I can actually get in there. So that means that I can remove so much more of the aluminum inside the cylinder head. I can refine it better, I can make it smoother, and the same thing kind of goes with refining it even after this step. So using these bits is going to remove the very large surface imperfections, the ones that are like really hilly and mountainous pretty much. If the cylinder head's castings are really bad, you're gonna be needing something like this to really smooth it down and really make it nice. Now, once this is done, you can refine it and you can try and get some of the harder to reach areas, like this little ball. Hope you guys can see that. Like there's a couple different kinds that come in these kits. So I used this 4-pack kit and this single bit, and this was all purchased separately. So I bought all this stuff on Amazon, including the drill, and I was able to use this entire thing, everything you see here, to smoothen out the cylinder head and make it look really nice. So by using those bits over there, you can go from a surface that looks like this to this, and this is where you're refining those scratches. And once you have all those grounded down, you can go to something like this, and then you can go one step further and refine it even more and go to something that's like this. Now at this point, it's super smooth, the finish looks really nice, and this is gonna flow a lot better than this guy over here. You can see the number of surface imperfections that are found inside the castings, whereas over here, you're not gonna have that. So when you do this procedure to the intake runners, you're gonna get it so that the turbocharged air is being pushed and being basically forced into the combustion chamber. Now that's great, that means you're gonna be able to get the air to the combustion chamber super quick. Now you can also do the same procedure to the exhaust runners, and at that point it's gonna be able to spool the turbocharger faster. So by doing both of these, you're gonna be making the engine perform a lot better and you're gonna be able to make it flow much faster. So that's enough talking for now. We're first gonna grab some safety things and then we're gonna get started. Okay, so before we actually begin to grind down any kind of metal, you want to be sure to have some sort of eye protection, and then make sure you have a respirator too. Because keep in mind that when you're grinding off these little pieces of aluminum, you don't want that to get airborne, and then you don't want to inhale that, because those little aluminum shards are very sharp. So if you guys can be protected, that's going to be good. Now, this is pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. Now, you don't want to go too fast when you're doing this, because keep in mind, you can always take off more, you can't put back on. If you have to put back on, you have to buy a new cylinder head, and that's going to be quite expensive. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with doing this process yourself, don't do it. It's as simple as that. What I'm going to be doing today is just showing you what I'm going to be doing. I am familiar with working with this aluminum. I've done it before, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to do it today. Now, if you are kind of skeptical, if you guys can find a sacrificial piece of aluminum or whatever your cylinder head or block is made out of, you guys can clean that up, you guys can grind it down, and you guys can see how these carbide bits are going to behave. Because if you guys can work on that, and let's say you make a mistake, who cares? It's not going to be something that you're worried about. But if you do that on something that you need and something that's expensive, there's no going back. So if you guys have an aluminum cylinder head, if you guys have an aluminum intake manifold, or if you guys have whatever, play around with the junk piece of aluminum first and then go from there. Then once you're comfortable, you guys can go ahead and get started and start grinding down some of this metal. So with the carbide bit, you want to try and shave down each one of these little peaks so that it's a lot smoother than what you started with. So if you hold the drill kind of like a gun and you really support it, it's not going to want to jump or skip. Now if you hold it kind of loose, it will, especially when the carbide bit is breaking away at some of that aluminum and shaving it down. The carbide bit is quite grippy, so if you don't have a good hold of it, it's just going to jump and skip around. You're going to try and use these carbide bits to remove all of this. Now if you're only using the small ones, you won't be able to get down into each one of these ports, and you're not exactly going to be able to remove all of the imperfections. So that's why using the large ones is definitely handy. You can probably use these small ones when you're working with the little combustion chamber area, because you can get right access to it by turning the cylinder head upside down. But for the ports, you definitely need the long ones. After the first couple minutes of polishing this area, most of the imperfections are now removed. Now keep in mind, any aluminum that you remove is going to be deposited down into the cylinder. So be careful when you're doing this, just keep note of how much aluminum dust is going to be coming off, and then you should be in good hands. Now keep in mind, if you can only get to the bottom side comfortably like this, don't try and reach the top. Move the cylinder head around, try and get comfortable, because if you're not comfortable and you can't get a good position, that's where you might make mistakes. So if you guys can take your time, do this properly, you guys are going to be in good hands. So after about half an hour of grinding down those surface imperfections, you should be left with something that looks like the port on the left. So you can see that it's nice and shiny versus the one on the right where it's kind of mountainous and you're not exactly going to be getting the same kind of clarity and shine from it. So something else that I did was I also reshaped and made the ports slightly larger. So you can see that on the port on the left, there's not really anything that's basically obstruting the opening for the valve versus the one on the right. You can see that on the outside perimeter of where the valve sits, you can see there's still a little bit of aluminum. Now, if you grind that down and smoothen that out, you're in theory going to be able to flow more air and get the combustion chamber to be filled up with air faster. So what we're looking at right here is the exhaust port. Now this right here is leading from the combustion chamber, and this is where it would be leading to the exhaust manifold and then the turbocharger. So this right here is after I removed a lot of the surface imperfections and I did a little bit of shaping to the actual port itself. Next up, we have another exhaust port that's leading from the combustion chamber and then leading towards the exhaust manifold. Now, this port right here is a bare cast aluminum port. So there's been no reshaping, no surface imperfections have been removed, and you can see how disgusting this is. So we need to remove all of these disgusting imperfections so that the air is going to be able to flow smoother, and then in theory, we should then be able to make the turbocharger spool faster by doing those changes. I've already removed the surface imperfections from 2 of the exhaust ports. However, we still need to do the exact same thing to the other 2. You can see that these definitely require work, and it's not a very difficult process, but it is a quite time-consuming one. I'll be straight up with you guys, this process does take a super long time. Because even after you're done with the carbide bit, you can keep refining it and going with a higher grit sandpaper every next step. So I started off after the carbide bit, I went to an 80 grit sandpaper roll, and then I went to a 120 grit sandpaper roll. Now after that, you can keep going to refine it and refine it and refine it, and each step takes hours. Now the reason why it takes hours is because if you're very picky, you're going to want to have a basically perfect finish. So anytime that you see an imperfection, you're going to want to remove it. Even after nearly 2 weeks of working on this a little at a time, it's taken a long time, but the results are definitely getting there. If you guys want, you guys can make it so that it's just ground down using the carbide bits, or you guys can go even more into it and refining it with sandpaper. It's entirely up to you, and the amount of time that you put into it will make a big difference as to how the engine will perform afterwards. The more time you put in now, the better it's going to behave. Okay, so I've got to start to wrap up this video because this has been taking a super long time. So I've been working on this head for the last week and a half. I've been just going at it a little bit at a time, and I've gotten it down to basically like super smooth to the point that there are no surface imperfections from when it was casted. So there's no high spots. It was grounded down. It was completely removed of all of those, and then I refined it with 2 different kinds of sandpaper. I first started off with an 80 grit, and then I worked up to 120 grit. Now at that point, it looks great. It looks amazing. Now I went through 4 of these packs. Well, actually I bought 4. This is the 4th one here. But I definitely did need those to get this done. Now, if you guys do plan on doing this job, you are going to need a couple tools. You're definitely going to need a drill, and you're also going to need a Dremel. And having this extension, which is basically an adapter that attaches to the Dremel, is super handy because you can get it like, you can use it like a pencil, where you can get down into whatever kind of intricate area and get any imperfection removed. Now on top of that, you're also going to need those carbide bits I was talking about earlier. You can get small 1/8 inch shank ones, or you can get the, what is this, 1/4 inch, I think? These are 1/4 inch shanks. So you've got the small ones and you've got the long reach ones. If you guys are going to be doing this process, you don't really need the small ones for doing a cylinder head, because I found that just using these was good enough. The long one here, this individual one, and this 4-pack are a definite must if you guys want to get this done. After that, you're going to be refining it with that pack that looks like this, and I still have a couple left over. So I mean, this is definitely a must-have if you guys want to get this done. Now after that, you guys can use some Dremel bits and Dremel adapters to either polish it up, clean it up, or even remove more of the surface imperfections. Now the Dremel kit also has a little polishing wheel, and you can use that to further polish this to a mirror finish should you guys want to do that. It does indeed take a super long time to do, but if you take your time, the results are definitely going to be worth it. Now I'm going to be wrapping this video up. I'll quickly show you what I've done to the cylinder head and what's been taking me so long. So let's show you. So for the combustion chamber area, I didn't really touch anything other than just using a little wire wheel to clean up and basically polish the surface. So at this point, this is going to be super smooth. where this is not. So the carbon is going to want to stick to this and basically get in there and attach to it on this side because this hasn't been touched yet. But this side over here, because it's very smooth, it's not quite like this, like the insides of the runners, but it still is going to make a big difference. By removing material found on the inside part of the crown or the bowl of the cylinder head, you're actually going to be changing the compression ratio of the cylinder. So if you leave it the way it is and just polish it up, you're going to be slightly lowering it. But if you grind down all of these surface imperfections, kind of like what we did for in there, you are 100% going to lower the compression ratio, and you could, in theory, change how the engine is going to run. But as for everything else, let me just zoom this out with a camera. Let me show you how clean these turned out. So the valve guides are going to get changed, but look at the insides. They look so good and so smooth, and I still am going to be refining this even more. But I just want to complete this video so you guys have an idea as to what the job entails, how much work it takes. It really does take a super long time. Now, to get this done, I was using my Dremel kit there and my drill, which is also down there, and it made this look so nice. So I'm going to now show you the intake side. Look how good that is. There are no imperfections like what you're seeing here in each one of the runners. So this looks amazing. Now when you're done, it should look pretty damn close to a mirror finish. Now that is only if you go and you basically machine this and refine it down to the point that it looks like a mirror finish. So when you use a polishing wheel, where did I put it? It's in the little Dremel kit somewhere. Here it is. So this. So if you use this, after you go ahead and refine this and refine it, you're going to have a perfect mirror finish. So this just attaches on the end of your Dremel, and it does a great job. I haven't gotten to that step yet, but what definitely is a must after you use those sanding rolls is these. It's like a little foam piece that's quite abrasive, and you attach it to the end of your Dremel, and because it's really small, you can put the entire thing basically down into the port, and you can get any kind of area you want. So if you want, you can get that down there like that, and it'll get all the way to here. Now, if you want, you can also remove this little end of it, which means you can get further down into the port, but that right there even should be enough. Like, that is quite good. You can get every area in here from that side, and then after you're done that, you can go in from the other side. But that right there is where I'm gonna be completing this video. I will be working away even more at this cylinder head, but it's not really going to necessarily be in this video. I want to get more of the mini build done because it's starting to get warm, and I definitely want to get this thing ready and on the road for when it's warm out. But that is everything for this video. If you guys want to pick up any of the products that I used today, check the description box. I have links for everything on Amazon. It's going to redirect you right to it, and at that point, you can just click it, add to cart, and it'll be shipped right to your door. Now, if you guys aren't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing it. I make all these videos super helpful and super handy so you guys can learn a thing or two. So you guys don't have to say, buy the incorrect tools like these. You guys don't have to waste your money and have it not really be useful for what you want to do. So if you guys like the video, also give it a thumbs up. But otherwise, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be showing you guys after I'm done working on the cylinder head what it's going to look like. So just stay tuned, stay subscribed, and you guys are going to see those final details. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.